hope you've all been keeping well. I hope you weren't too upset last week, the fact that we didn't have a Parenting in My Pocket live. It was St. Patrick's Day. What can I say? I don't work on St. Patrick's Day. And it was a lovely St. Patrick's Day. Actually, it was different because we normally have parades and we go and we'd spend time with friends and family. So obviously this year that didn't happen, and it's very different this time around. But you know, it is what it is, and we made the most of it. A lovely little family day with me and my little family, and watched some old Irish movies and some new American movies, and had some Guinness, and it was all good fun. So it was a good St. Patrick's Day. I really enjoyed it. It was nice to have the day off as well. And what else has been happening? Not much. Did a talk last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, for a library service in Ireland that I've recorded, and hopefully will be getting out as a podcast very soon for you guys. Apologies actually last week that there was no podcast either. That was just down to St. Patrick's Day knocking me out, so I didn't get a podcast edited, but you should have one today that you can access, and then we'll keep them rolling over the coming weeks. It's been a fine couple of weeks. Really busy still, which is good, and it's good for my business. Unfortunate for the people who need the support, but at least they're able to access the supports, which is great. We've decided to keep our online courses at the reduced rate. So if you want to do the Parenting in a Pandemic, or the parenting self-care, or the general parenting, you can do them for the reduced price. Actually, we're keeping the Parenting in a Pandemic free, so head on over, give it a go and see. We've had a few people sign up the last week or so hopefully that'll be useful. We've got a couple of questions today, and they're kind of interesting ones. Right, let's just crack into them. My son is 9 and he is really struggling in school. The teacher phoned me yesterday and said that he seems to be quite anxious and is getting into trouble. I tried to speak to him about it, but he just wouldn't sit down with me and said that the other boys were just annoying him. I've noticed when we sit down to do homework, he seems really down and he seems to make a lot of mistakes with his spelling and maths, which frustrates him even more. I'm at the end of my tether. I want my son to be okay, but I just don't know what to do for him. Please help. What I find is with the please help messages, it's really heartfelt. Like there's something really kind of, somebody needs that bit of reassurance or support. So hopefully we can get that today. So there's a couple of things I took out of that. So obviously in Ireland, we have been getting the primary schools back over the last few weeks. And some people have just responded really well to it because they're really happy to have time with their friends again, get back into the classroom, get that bit of structure going again, which is really important to them. While others have maybe struggled. Others may have been very nervous about going back. Others may have been terrified about going back because they're out of the loop of that structure. And I suppose some parents may have really struggled to get their kids to sit down and concentrate doing schoolwork during the lockdown, which is completely understandable for some children who maybe do find it difficult to sit at a screen that isn't a game screen for hours and hours on end. So it's all right for your child to be struggling. Now, the first thing I'd say is maybe there is bullying going on, and this will be where you have those conversations with the school. The teacher has phoned you, is obviously concerned, so it's okay to say to the teacher, look, this is what he's saying, that the boys are just annoying. Now, it may just be that they were annoying him. It may not be anything more than that, but it could be something a bit more sinister going on. So you can ask the teacher to just keep an eye out. Not blaming, not pointing any fingers, just acknowledging that this is what he said. So from your end, can you have a look and just see if that is the case or if you're noticing anything? The other thing is that reintroduction can be quite challenging, and the comfort of being at home is gone. So you're back into the classroom, and it can be quite overwhelming if the teacher starts talking about stuff that there's an assumption that the kid will know, but maybe he doesn't. The other thing, the fact that he struggles with his spelling and his maths. Now, I don't know, maybe there might be some sort of mild learning issue going on there. So it might be worth speaking to the school as well and say, look, is this something you guys have noticed? Because I'm noticing it as well. And maybe it's something we need to go and take further, where you might get an assessment done just to see if he has some learning needs. And that can be quite nerve-wracking for some parents, because they might go, well, what if something does come up? And what if we can't, what if we don't know what to do to help them? So that could be one concern. Another concern could be, I don't want to label my children. So I don't want my child labelled with having dyslexia, ADHD, dyspraxia, whatever it might be. I don't want them to have that. And that's completely understandable. But what I'd say to you is, if they have some sort of learning difficulty or challenge, having that diagnosis and having that confirmed can actually open up a number of supports for your kids. There was one lady, so obviously we do a lot of the Empower Learning stuff around teaching kids who've got dyslexia a different way of learning, and it's highly successful. I'm about to run it now for the Loud Leader Partnership, which is a local partnership group with the students, a number of students who've struggled. But those children who learn in a different way, school may be a challenge for them because they learn in a different way. So it may be that once you get that diagnosis, it's not about labelling your child, but it's about accessing the supports that they can make life better. And that's what I was going to say. There was one lady I spoke to, and she said that I keep telling my child that their dyslexia is a gift, because I don't want it to be something that they're embarrassed about, and I don't want them to feel stigmatized or different. And again, I completely understood that lady's logic. Absolutely 100% understood her logic. But I spoke to the child, and he said to me, don't tell my mum, but I don't see it as a gift. I find it really hard. I find school really hard. And whenever I bring it up with my mum, she tells me it's a gift. And that just makes me feel like it doesn't match with me. It just makes me feel like I'm making a mistake and I'm doing stuff wrong. So I worked with the young fella and the mum around the mum's perception, which again, look, that she was coming from the most generous heart that a mother could come from. She just wanted her son not to feel stigmatized, not to feel different or to have a label. I completely understood it. It's just unfortunate that her son felt totally different. So we may want something for our children. We may not want our children to be labelled. We may not want our children to see it as a stigma, but maybe they do. And maybe they need those supports in school. They need teachers to understand. And then when they're going into secondary school, that gets passed on, or should be passed on, to the secondary school so they can access supports in secondary school, because it's different supports that they need there. So having that available to them with the report can really help them to flourish in school. And some people have said to me in the past, yeah, but I'm afraid my child will use it as an excuse to not do languages, or to be a bit more kind of, it's okay for me to not get all my spellings right. It's okay for me to kind of take the foot off the gas a bit. But the majority of children won't do that. Yes, our children need to be challenged, but if you are going into an environment every single day where it was a constant struggle, if it was a job, you would probably look to get a new job. Your child can't do that. Your child can't change the fact that they have to get an education, and then they're in the education system, so they have no choice over it. So it's about just separating our own worries and concerns and maybe apprehensions about getting a report done, and it actually helps our children. Now, the report for this lady might come back, and you may not need a report. The school might come back and go, no, we don't think that there is an issue there, and that's absolutely fine too. Then you can look at different ways that, speak with the school and say, have you any suggestions of things that I can do to help my child improve their maths and improve their spelling? The other thing I'd say is drop me an email and we will do the empowering learning separately. And we'll set up a couple of sessions where I'll work with you and your son to just try the empowering learning program and see if that makes things a little bit better. What I found with the empowering learning program is we have kids coming in and they are so down in relation to themselves and education, and when we finish they are up here because they know they can spell all of a sudden. So if the school don't feel that there is something there, come back to me and we will look at set up a couple of sessions on Zoom, and I'll teach you the technique and you can try it with your child. The other thing I'd say is get out and do something with them. And I know I say this a lot, but go and do something with your child, whether it's kicking a ball, building something, whatever they're into, playing a game, and just do it and see, does your child open up a bit more. They might start talking about things. Or it could be simple as, going for a walk with the dog, or just going for a walk and saying, you're saying that the lads are annoying you. That must be really frustrating when the lads in school annoy you. Like, what are the kind of things that they annoy you about? Because I know, like, Jesus, such and such in work, or the neighbour annoys me too. So what are the things that maybe they're annoying you about? You might get little snippets. You might just say, no, look, it's fine, it's okay, don't want to talk about it. That's okay too. You're just creating the opportunity for communication. That's what's important. And what's important also is that when you create the opportunity for communication, that if your child doesn't communicate, that you're not frustrated because you've gone and you've set up this opportunity for communication with your child and they haven't taken up the opportunity. It's okay. It's all right. You just keep creating those opportunities, and when they need to, they will talk about it. So I hope that's of some use. But do please get in touch with me if you want to do some work around the spelling with your son. Okay. Hello to everybody who is saying hello in the chat. Hope you've all been keeping well. Loads of stuff going on there. So I'll deal with those at the end. Second question. My 17-year-old daughter is starting to drive and she's so excited to get her license and start to get her own freedom. Her dad has been taking her driving for a couple of years and says she's a very competent driver. She's so eager to get driving and on the road by herself. The issue I have is that I started driving at the same age and was in a really bad accident where my car skidded on ice and I ended up damaging my back, which required surgery. The first time I got into the car with my daughter, I got a flashback to the accident, and since then I've been making excuses not to get into the car with her. I feel really scared for her, and I've had dreams where she's killed in a car crash. I want to tell her to be careful as a driver and not to drive on icy roads, but then I second guess myself and I wonder, is it just me projecting onto her? What do you think, and what should I do to get over this? So here's a mum who is clearly struggling with her own issues and what happened to her, and like she said, there's a projection onto her child. Now, what I'd say to you is, you're not being completely ridiculous here, all right? So give yourself a break. You're not being completely ridiculous, because for any parent whose child is going out onto the road, they need to be told, okay, this is how you're safe on the road. This is how, if it is icy, this is what you do. Just getting them into that routine of being a bit more safe, a bit more careful, because young drivers have so little experience that they can feel like, I'm absolutely fine because I've got this big thing around me and it'll protect me if I crash. But that isn't always the case. So it's absolutely all right to sit down with her and explain, look, this is how to be safe. She probably won't get pass her test if she's not aware of all that kind of stuff anyway. So you're just being a responsible parent by saying, look, just be careful. What I wouldn't say is start getting into, maybe you shouldn't drive on ice. Maybe you should just, only drive when it's sunny. Don't drive when it's wet because the roads get very skiddy. And when I skidded off and I damaged my back, I needed surgery. Because that's where you're moving into, you're projecting your stuff onto your child, And that they can take that on as their own fear and go, oh, Jesus, like maybe I shouldn't drive when it's icy, or maybe I shouldn't drive when it's wet, because my mum had to get surgery on her back, and that is just a horrendous thing. So you don't want to get into that projection, because your child may never have an accident ever. She might, but she might not. But just because you've had that experience doesn't mean that she will go through the same thing. And it goes back to this whole thing of, yeah, but a lot of parents will say to me, my child's just like me. And then they go, like, this is how I felt, and this is what happened to me, and all these things went on, and I'm still working through my stuff now, and I don't want that for my child. Your child is not mini you. They may have a lot of the same personality traits, they may have the same kind of way of looking at the world, but they're not you, because they're different parents, they're a different person, and they will not necessarily have the same experience as you. So catch yourself. If you're going to find yourself speaking and talking about your experience of driving, maybe hold that back and just go, just be safe, and this is how you can be safe. So you're being quite practical. I would actually go, if I were you, and speak to somebody to see about trying to release that frozen trauma that's within you, because the fact that you are now getting triggered, what happens is when we get triggered, we go back and we experience the emotion, or can experience the emotion that we had when this happened in the past. And that's horrible. No one wants to feel that, because the traumatic experience that you had in the past is traumatic. It's not nice. It's not enjoyable. So I would definitely go and find somebody. And I would go, if you have those experiences of being triggered by when you're in the car with your daughter, I would absolutely go and find a logosynthesis practitioner. Because for me, and this is just my experience and how I work, logosynthesis is the most gentle way of removing those frozen blockages that we have that trigger us. Other techniques will maybe take you back into the trauma, but that's the beauty of logosynthesis. It doesn't take you back into the trauma. You don't have to be really traumatized. You can deal with it in the here and now, because the reality is the situation is past. It's gone. It's done. It's just the reaction that you have in the here and now that pulls it back in to here and now. And that can be the biggest challenge that we face. So get in touch with a logosynthesis practitioner. If you do a search for the LIA, Logosynthesis International Association, I think it is, there'll be a list of practitioners on there. Find someone in your local area, or give me a shout or whatever, and I can put you in touch with somebody if you'd like to. And it can be really effective at getting rid of those triggers, so that it happened. You can't erase it from your memory. Like, that's not going to happen, but it's just that you won't get the same reaction in the here and now that you are at the moment. And I'm assuming you want to get into the car with your daughter. You don't want to not be actually, to constantly make excuses throughout your life and your daughter's life for going, oh, sorry, I'm going to walk, or purely because you're triggered. So I'm sure you want to get past it. So, and the great thing about logosynthesis is it can act really fast. So go find someone, go and speak to them. They'll help you get rid of that, and just see how you get on. But you're right. You don't need to project your fears onto your daughter. Deal with your own triggers and give her advice, and see how you get on. That's us for today. I hope you guys have a good week. I'm glad to be back in the hot seat. I missed you all last week. And we'll chat to you next week. You take care of yourselves, guys. All right?